Hey guys, Dave here from Nerdarchy, hanging out with some of the crew and our special guest, Scott Garraby, today.
I'm Ted.
I'm Nate.
And today we're going to be talking about player tips, gaming with children.
So I think, I don't have a lot of exposure with kids at the table. But I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things. We recently did a video on GMing for kids.
Right. And I guess in this case, we're talking about, tweens and younger, right?
Yeah. You're at the table and you've got somebody who, is in that age category. What are the important things for you to know?
I want to say first thing is, again, as we always refer back to our session 0, maybe not so much for the kids, but for the adults, and setting expectations and letting them know what kind of game this is going to be, and the fact that this isn't going to be your standard RPG that you're used to playing, because, we're going to slack off on the rules a little bit, we're going to dumb things down a little bit, and we're going to encourage these young people at the table to get involved and be exposed to the hobby. So if you're not okay with that kind of stuff,
it might not be the game for you.
This is not the game for you.
So my first and foremost thing that I have to say is you need to be patient. Regardless of how rules heavy you're going, regardless of how ridiculous you're going to allow things to get, you want this next generation to really grow and thrive in the hobby. You've got to let those things, get explored. You have to let those things happen. So when somebody doesn't understand what's going on or starts going off the deep end, that's for the GM to deal with. You want to just be patient as a player, and like with any other situation, let them shine, let them have their moment in the sun, sit back and be patient.
Absolutely. And so one thing I would add to that, so the few times that I've been on the player side with kids, one, you see it at conventions, or also sometimes somebody will bring a kid along, to a game, and then they're there, and so a character might be made for that. And so one of the things I've done is, as much as possible, I'll become like a support character. So if we're fighting a boulet, I'll say, I'll, as everybody else is doing their rounds, I'll say to that kid, hey, I'll run to the front side and you're going to attack him from the back, because he's going to be distracted. And there's actually a mechanic in 5th edition for that called aid, I believe. And so that gives them advantage, and so as much as possible, you're just going to be using your character to set them up, especially if it's a one-off, or you have kids, you want to just kind of be teeing everything up for them as much as possible. Also, as always, you want to, when there's any time to talk or interact, do the interaction portion, you want to be giving, stepping back and letting the kids jump in.
Letting them have first dibs.
Absolutely, and just being as kind of like as selfless a player as possible, and letting them step forward.
Well, I actually like your idea of handing them the layup, right, in combat.
Yeah.
But you could easily do that in role-playing situations as well.
Yeah.
By involving them and asking them questions and wanting their opinion. And, everyone likes that, but especially kids, when you refer to them and speak to them as if you would another grown-up, they really appreciate that and respond well to it.
Small aside, actually, I think so there's the fastball special in the X-Men where Colossus throws Wolverine, and I've been thinking that there's a whole book you could write about that in D&D, where this character does that and this character does that, and that is a specific move. And I think kids really get that, and so the more you can, it's even an opportunity to explore that part of D&D playing that you don't really get to see that much, because everybody knows what they're doing next, and the idea of we're going to do this together, you could try something with a kid at the table that to explore that aspect of D&D as a whole.
I mean, they're going to be far more open to it.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
I would say as a player, you were saying, mechanically assisting them in combat. I think taking that actually at the table, and having either yourself or encouraging someone else to sit there and be like the big brother, the big sister, and guiding them through, okay, well, as opposed to the kid, saying out loud to the table, what die do I roll? They can just, hey, what die do I roll? How do I handle this? So that you've got someone there that, is a mechanic question or a, can I say this, can I do this situation, so that it's not taking away from the table as a whole, having that person that is essentially the mentor.
Yeah.
I think that that's going to foster that growth faster, foster the knowledge faster.
I think. Go ahead.
We've always done that with players at our table. No matter what age they are, if they're new to the game, we've always paired them up with someone else without ever think. We never thought about it. We didn't have a name for it. It just naturally kind of like happened at the table.
Yeah. Also, if you're at a table and there's kids there, and you're looking at it, and especially if it's at a con or if a kid just shows up at a game, one of the things I would really encourage is watch at the beginning of the game. And if you know that you're a person who I have 4 kids, so I have a heart for kids, and so I always try to be there for them and really assist with them. So at the beginning, be ready to switch your seat, to physically get up, walk over, and say I'm going to and switch with another player, so you can sit next to that kid, and so that you can. And then you can say, oh, well, as you're coming up, you can say, oh, well, here's your options, or, so that you're physically close. That's the big thing with kids is it's physical.
All of us, here are parents, Dave, Nate, and I, Dave and I each have 2 kids. Nate's got 3.
70 or something, I don't know.
3 plus.
3 plus.
Just
3 and counting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've all been in that situation, so it's not that far of extrapolating parent to person at the table.
Yeah.
So
And I would say be prepared for them to kind of, like what you're saying with patience. Definitely have to be patient.
Yeah.
And I found that with them kind of goofing off sometimes. It's like kids are going to goof off no matter what it is sometimes, and not like trying to corral them without them knowing they're being fenced in. I think that's kind of it's a touch and go thing. It's definitely a skill to develop if you're gonna be around playing with kids a lot.
Right.
But I would say directing them with or encouraging them into a direction rather than saying no, don't do this, do this. I think it's a big deal. So
Playing with kids, it's a lot like having gobblers in your game.
Yeah.
you just aim them towards something and hopefully nothing blows up.
Yeah.
That was yours.
Yeah.
So any final things that we want to throw in there?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much covers it. Patience. Know what kind of game you're getting into and accept that, and understand that this hobby is only going to continue through the next generation. And if you want to keep having products to buy and see this hobby support it, well, you have to be supportive and give back.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I would even go even further and say, I actually think that D&D is kind of a hard sell for kids today because they're really big books, and sitting around the table for 4 hours, it's really alien to the younger generation. So the importance of doing this and saying, I'm giving up this session of having more fun for myself because I'm investing time in another kid, seeing the value of books and the value of reading and the value of sitting with your friends. It's important to us, and so it's really worth the time that you spend.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you guys think? Do you have any other feedback that you want to share with us and everybody else that's watching? Go ahead and put them in the comments below. While you're doing that, feel free to click like, share, even subscribe.
You can Patreonize us in a good way with our Patreon account.
You can also join the conversation over on Reddit.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.